Welcome to the London Horror Movie Club. I'm horror writer Lauren Jane Barnett.
And I'm Chris Sapikowski, Lauren's older brother, and I've been watching horror movies since I was 8.
Join us as we talk about the wild, weird, and wonderful horror films set in England's eerie capital. Welcome back, horror fans. Today on the London Horror Movie Club, we are talking about the new indie horror film Bad Voodoo. When escaped convicts invade the home of a grieving mother, Abby, they're faced with an unexpected voodoo power and a tale of dark revenge. Talking with us about it is Andre Hepburn, the co-director, writer, and producer of Bad Voodoo. He's also known for his work on the TV series In the Bedroom, but he's turned his hand to horror, and we love it. Welcome, Andre.
Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. So I will dive into Bad Voodoo in a bit, but I wanted to start by asking, were you always a fan of horror?
I was. I really thought I was going to be into action as far as my engagement in the whole in the film genre. Because my first, well, not my first script. I have several scripts I've written, but the first feature we wanted to do was a mob action flick where Italian versus Asian mob having a turf war, and that collapsed in our efforts to raise some money through distribution years ago. And then I'm a writer that basically believes in like don't get pinholed into a certain genre. Just go where your mind flows, per se. So when we're doing our short film called The Trap, out on Prime Video right now, The Trap, and when we're doing it, and then we're filming it, and then one of the set production people were upstairs in the warehouse where we're filming. He found a voodoo doll, and it freaked everybody out. Like nobody wanted to go anywhere near. I never seen anything like it, and that's where I started remembering my stories my grandmother told me from Haiti about the whole voodoo aspect and all the crazy stuff she used to tell me to scare the hell out of me growing up. And so that's where Bad Voodoo birth. Originally, it was called just Voodoo, and it was birthed through that me seeing people's reaction and then remembering those stories. And then if you remember the scene that they're in the basement and Nice is no Smooth is talking about a kid growing up, a kid that was arrested and he was in jail with him breaking that was literally ripped from my grandmother's own story. And what it was, her story, her version was growing up, she was like around 6, 7 in Haiti. And there was a guy in the village where she would live at who was breaking people's houses. And no, people were afraid of him. He's a big guy. People were scared to death of him. And people were just like, you know what? It is what it is. And then my grandmother said she didn't, for a while, they didn't see him. And everything just went quiet. And then she heard that he broke into a voodoo priestess or Nugon's house. And ever since then, he was never seen again. And then my grandmother said that when she was playing in the back, this freaked me out when I was younger. I don't know why she told me this, but she was playing in the backyard and she heard something. She ran to the front yard and a goat looked at her, spoke in the guy's voice, and ran off.
Oh my
And
God.
right, so I took that element of it and reversed it into Smooth's tale about the guy breaking into the houses and how that helped basically understanding, like, giving the audience insight into what they're kind of dealing with, you know. We did have in the original script, we did have a goat come in and speak, but my production designer, Jordan, was just like, yeah, we can't do that. That's not in your budget.
That's pretty great. I've always found voodoo to be, I know nothing about it. Like I know about like the overarching theme of voodoo, but so I find it very creepy in general, just because I don't know so much about it. And so the movie really got me there. I was really intrigued with that. When you watch horror movies, have you ever ventured down like other voodoo movies there, or what kind of horror movies did you watch growing up?
I watched everything. Like
Okay.
we were Blockbuster family. Like my father every
Same.
Friday night we go to Blockbuster, grab a movie. I was at that age where like he not really that age. My parents just really didn't care. They just know like do good grades. We know you're not going to become a serial killer. So watch whatever you want to watch. So so I would watch Silence of the Lambs. I would watch all these other movies, and Freddy was, I would say, you know what? Not even Freddy. My first opening to horror was Stephen King.
Okay.
Because I came from Haiti when I was 7 to the U.S. and I my English wasn't that great, but I would love to write. And Mrs. Katz, God rest her soul, she spoke French, so me and her can basically relate to communicate. And she was saying to me, "Hey, I think this was what it was Stephen King's It." She gave me Stephen King's It. She's like, read this. I think your reading potential, your writing has potential. The way you view things is basically beyond your grade. So read this. It should help you. And scared me, but reading Stephen King's It as like what was that, like 8 years old? No, not
That's
8
just
years
that
old. I
seems
was
a
like
little early.
I was like 9 years old. I was 9 or 10 years old. Yeah, around 10 years old, she gave me It. Yeah, 1990. I think I was like 10 years old then. No, 1990. And I read it and I was in love with just the world view. And then I became a big fan of Stephen King from there, read Salem's
Okay.
Lot, read all the others, read Pet Cemetery, watched all the movies. Sleepwalker is a guilty pleasure of mine.
Nice.
So all and then the horror genre aspect as part of what I loved is like I would say obviously Wes Craven, um, um, Freddy. Nightmare on Elm Street, So these, because in the '80s and in that era, there was so much great stuff coming out in the genre. You just had like what we're going through right now, like the Renaissance we're going through right now with horror. It basically had the same kind of thing in the '80s where like you just like had great horror coming left and right. Sometimes horrible horror, but if you're a fan of the genre, you love it regardless. You're like, I'm getting what I mean, I'm gonna find something good in this. Even Serpent and Rainbow when you were talking about Christopher, when you talk about like what movies did I watch as far as the Voodoo, it was
Hmm.
Serpent and Rainbow what comes to
Okay.
mind. Yeah, with Wes Craven.
Yep.
Funny thing is that if you read or watch videos on how that came to be, they went through a lot of hell to make that movie. Like weird stuff were going on. People were getting poisoned on set. They had to move production from Haiti back to the US because they couldn't finish production over there because everything was just insane. So just a lot of things where thank God we didn't have to go through it, but that they
Yeah.
went through to make the film. So yeah. But yeah, that's all yeah, I've been a big fan of the genre for since I was but again, I thought I was gonna be making action films. I never
Right.
thought I'd be jumping the horror genre. Yeah.
I love that you've got a sort of personal historical connection to the voodoo bit, and it's such a strong sort of section, particularly because you have this fantastic voodoo. I guess he's a priest or a master. I'm not sure how to refer to him, but
Yeah, he's a voodoo priest. In the community, he's called the Ugon, which is a voodoo
okay.
priest. Yeah. So yeah.
I wanted to know how was it casting the role of the Uga because it's such an important and integral part of the film.
Oh my God, poor Jimmy. He fought for that role. Man, he fought for that role. I didn't want him at first. There was this other guy I really wanted. Um, at first, we were trying to get Tony Todd, but then um, with his production schedule, and we didn't know he was sick at the time as well. And then, but what happened was that talking to people within the community, they were like, "He's not Haitian though, so why would you cast him?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, he'd sell the movie, but he's not Haitian." So we were really reaching out to Jimmy Joe Louis, who's a well-known actor in the Haitian community, and he did not fit the mold. And Jimmy said, like, "Hey, listen, give me a few cracks at it. I think you're gonna like what I got." So Jimmy did 4 or 5 more videos, and then fifth video, I was like, "I can see it now." And then that's how he landed it. He fought hard. He's like, I know he's like, I was born for this role. I know this character because he's a big fan of comic books and Dr. Voodoo from Marvel he's a huge fan of Doctor Voodoo from Marvel. So reading the comic book, he's like, "Oh my God, I've always dreamed of playing if not Doctor Voodoo, but something in that Ooga Voodoo Doctor role," and that's how he landed the role.
Amazing.
That's cool. Yeah. Like, so
Right.
when you were making, you said you were making your short film Trap, and then you
Right.
found a voodoo doll, just happenstance, like they found a voodoo doll in there. And you had that connection from your family connection in Haiti, where your
Mhm.
grandmother telling you these stories. Like, was it just did writing this script just come out very naturally to you, or was it like what kind of difficulties did you find in just the creation of the movie?
Well, the creation of the video, and that's why gotta give writing credit to Devin Fern, who we brought on board to rewrite the script to fine tune it. Um, but the original script that I wrote, the concept came from I had a other script that I had on the shelf for a few years. It was like a break entering film,
Okay.
screenplay, and it wasn't working. I was like, because like one thing like Wes Craven used to say, even Steven Spielberg, when he co-writes certain things, he'd say, like, if you're not feeling it, just put it away and then go back to it. So I just said, like, I'm putting this away. And then I was like, well, that break entering script looked like it was missing something because I want to do something different with that genre. And I think this might be it. So I brought that script out from like, yeah, it's one of those things where like I lost my laptop, got stolen in Washington, D.C on a work trip. So I had to go Dropbox, find that script, dig it up, and it was hell to pay, but at the same time it was worth it. Because once I read it, I was like, oh, this is how I can um make it work. Because at the same time though, I wanted to touch on grief. And this happened, I was writing during the pandemic. And my brother and I, we have different when we lost our father, we had different ways of dealing with that grief, you know. And I wanted to kind of parallel that with Abigail's way of dealing with grief and John's way of dealing with grief. And trying to have those parallels be like, the internal struggles my brother and I, have with the way we lost our father. So that was a little bit therapeutic. Like Scorsese says, men don't go to therapy, we just make movies. So so that's where the when writing it with the break entering and then everything just flowed. It was just like because pandemic, everything was shut down and it was like there was no noise. And as a writer, it was just like I didn't go to work, I didn't have to deal with nothing. It was just like it just spun. And I just banged out the first draft in like 3 days. It
Oh
was
wow.
rough. First rough draft. It was rough draft, but there was a lot of things I changed along the way. But the first rough draft took me 3 days because I it was like no sleep, coffee. Because when you're flowing, you're in love with these characters. And as a writer, as crazy as it sounds, sometimes we don't even know where the characters are taking us. We're just flowing. We don't know if, like how this is gonna end, where this is gonna go, but we're just following the story along as the elements play themselves out. Yeah,
It definitely felt like you could see while watching it, the movie was definitely more on the handling grief and working through grief. And the voodoo was like a side piece to that. Like, I mean, I definitely grasped on the voodoo part for the horror side, but you could definitely feel the grief from the mother and the father.
exactly.
Yeah, it's such a powerful thing. I was curious about if you, because the spoiler alert for people, please watch the film. It's such a powerful statement at the end to kind of have anybody who might be involved in the death, anybody who might be responsible, be genuinely any tangential connection. Because that's true. When you kind of have an accident, something horrible happen, any little thing could have led to it. You closed the door wrong, you decided not to drive this car, you didn't do this, and it's such a like a shockingly true thing. Was that something that was right there in the first draft, or is that something you kind of built towards?
That's something I built towards, where because at the end, Abigail, spoiler alert, at the end in the original script, Abigail, it doesn't happen that way. And basically Abigail kind of wins. She gets everything she wants. And I was like, that's not I don't want a happy ending, you know? And I think Abigail, at the same time, though, there's certain things that she done that basically didn't deserve a happy ending. And the way the weave was woven was I was thinking about butterfly effect and the elements of like butterfly when we talk about time travel. And I'm a big fan of Marvel movies. So when you like, like they said, like, you kick a chair, go back to time, kick a chair, it changes it just changes the dynamic of everything. So when I was thinking about, okay, what she did led to this. So therefore, in the world of voodoo period, everyone that's responsible for these actions usually get their comeuppance. So therefore, she had to basically get the same kind of resolution, you know.
Mhm.
And I think once that key part, because I was struggling with that, I just couldn't make the ending work. I was like you know um like the movie with what's it called Secret was a Secret Window with Johnny Depp.
Oh yeah, with the
Yeah.
and he turns out to be yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was like when he was talking about it's all about the ending. So it's one of my favorite films. I watched it a gazillion times. So I just had that in my mind, just thinking about it has to be the ending has to have that, where the audience is just oh shit, I didn't expect that. But at the same time, though, it has to make sense. So yeah, once I realized that's what's gonna work, it was like a light bulb hit. I was like, okay, this is gonna work.
Mhm.
At what point did you want to make you said you were a writer and you've been writing since you were a child, right? And you like the writing and stuff. What made you want to do the movie aspect? We talked to a lot of people who do independent films and you don't have the big studio budget where they're like, here's $100 million, like go have fun and make your. I know it's not fun. Like I know that they work hard too, but like it's just so much work. Do you find that you want to keep doing that, or do you like what made you want to even start that in the first place to do the movie aspect, not just writing?
Well, you know what? I would say my mom deserves all the credit because I was in middle school and I watched Interview with the Vampire at the time, and we saw it in the theaters. Loved the film. It was one of those movies where my mom was getting side eyed by other people in the theater, like, "Why is your child here?" So,
Love it.
so we went to the mall, and there's this guy, because this was before the internet was a thing. There was this guy that was selling like physical scripts at the mall. I understand. And I saw the Interview with the Vampire script. And I told my mom, I want that. It was like $50. And do the math of inflation, she's like, $50. I'm not paying $50 for that. I was like, Mom, I really, really, really want it. Because she's like, okay, fine. She got it for me. And I read the script and I was like, because I had no idea, because I'm writing these long novel like stories in my young age. And I'm reading, I was like, there's a cheat code for this. I can enter this. I was like, oh my God, this is like amazing, you know? And then once I was clued in, I was like kind of like more like self-taught in that aspect. I went to the library, read on screenwriting at the time, middle school, but in that clued me in like there's an easier way to tell your stories without having feel like you have to be Stephen King taking 3 paragraphs to describe a forest,
Mm.
you know? So that was my initial first niche into screenwriting. Screenwrite. After that, stopped writing short stories or even novel-like stories. It's mostly focused on screenwriting. And then from there, because we were big family watching, family-wise, we watch movies all the time. So again, big blockbuster family, big cinema family. So you know, filmmaking to me as an introvert growing up was a way for me to convey what I'm feeling at the time, a way to tell stories, and I wanted to tell the stories to the world. I
Gotcha.
wanted other people to feel what I'm feeling. Whether good, whether bad, I want the audience to have those kind of feelings as well. So that's where it came. Then after that, went to film school a little bit, got costly, did real estate for a while, and then the economy went a bust with that. And then I was like, you know what? I just got to do what I love. This is not working because I'm miserable. I made a lot of money doing real estate, but this is not what I'm not happy doing. And I said to my best friend Andrew, I said like, hey, listen, we're gonna try doing a feature. This after the trap. We've done a whole bunch of short films, And I said to him, "Hey, listen, we're gonna try a feature. If we fall flat on our face, because we tried it before with the action, but this time we fall flat on our face, at least we know we tried."
Mhm.
So, and what's good for us, as crazy as it was that when the pandemic hit, um, the owner of the marketing firm I work for, he was more able to sit down and look at the pitch package where he had no noise because he was stuck at the house. So in his mansion. So he had time to look at the pitch package and he was like, "This is well done." He's like, "You know what? F it." He's like, I'll invest some money into it and get you guys some seed money to get started." And then once his money came in, another investor saw that he put money in and then jumped in also as well. And
Oh wow.
from there, it was like it usually the for us it was always getting the money was the hardest part. This time around, it was the easiest part, and then everything
Oh.
else was the hardest part. So yeah, it was a good problem to have. So it just felt like for Bad Voodoo, the universe was just saying like, "Hey, we're gonna open you've struggled so much, and we're gonna give you a pathway and see what you do with it." And then everything was just falling into place after that.
That's brilliant.
Cool.
Does
Yeah.
that mean you knew then from early on you wanted to co-direct it? Because that's a huge leap from writing.
I w- Andrew and I talked about it because we're considering other directors for the film. And the more we discussed it, Andrew's like saying like, "Okay, you should direct it," because I directed our first short film that we did together called Killing Khan. And then I told Andrew, "Well, I feel better since we've been on this road together, um, working hard, busting ass, getting to where we are. I feel like best if we direct it together." And that's how that came to be. Because Andrew, he has a more because me as a writer and creator, my mind is more so a little bit uh married to the elements, while Andrew can sit back and look things a little practical, basically be like, for example, the scene where they're doing the seance scene at the end, that was Andrew's baby. Andrew said he wants to direct that scene. And I was like, the way he had it, the way we discussed it, his vision for it was much better than mine, the way I had it on paper. So he directed that scene solely, So with Jordan Pacheco, the set designer, and our guy that did all the makeup, effects, and all that stuff for the film. So they worked on that baby together. So yeah, it just felt like a story that we both should tell together as co-directors. Yeah.
As a writer and co-directing it, do you operate more on a strict script? Is the script kind of like very rigid where you want people to keep on the script? I guess like a Quentin Tarantino, I guess I've heard like is like this is the way that it's written, or did you welcome improvisation for the
I welcome
actors?
I welcome improvisation from the actors. Because I felt like, for example, when Manny Perez came on, the first day Manny said that the way certain things were written for Doc, he's like, I don't think Doc would like, for example, when he's talking about Abigail's shoes in that scene, that wasn't in the script. And he was like saying, because when we did the wardrobe design, we like saying like, we want to say Abby has money without saying that she has money, so those shoes are very pricey. And he's like, well, if she's got these shoes on, I'm I'm Doc. I'm gonna say some stupid shit about it. So that line of him saying like, "Where you gonna go to Kansas and find Toto or something?"
Yeah.
That was directly from Manny Perez, and he came up
Okay.
with that line. Yeah. So and not to say I don't lack in it. We all have egos, but when the original distribution company where we were aligned with in the beginning, we ended up backing away from, came on board. They felt my script not just too long. My script just basically made everybody unlikable. And so that's when they brought on Devin and said, "Hey, check out Devin's work, see if you guys can work together." And Devin came on board and he rewrote a whole bunch of elements in the script to make it better. And I'm grateful for that because, because the one concern that they had, distribution has, like, sometimes when we tell that to writers, they're just like, they don't want to hear that. So I was like, no, we want to make a film, and if we can make it better, he come on board. Why not?
Right.
So by example, the opening scene was originally supposed to be in a type of like AA type setting, The one that the opening scene where we have in the commune and they're having the whole cult-like rich
Yeah.
meeting was originally supposed to be like an AA type thing. But when we got the location on site, I was like, no, we have to have it here. It just feels better here. And I'm a big fan of the what's the Ari Aster film with
Oh, Midsummer?
Midsummer. So I'm a huge fan of Midsummer, and I was like, we can play with this. This will be a great
Right.
vibe and a great throwback to Midsummer. So that's why we threw it. We threw it in that. Well, I mean, we chopped it up to chop it up to make the dialogue work on site, but they're on like any other indie film. We don't have the luxury of like the Quentin Tarantino's world to basically be like, we have to be
Right.
married to this. We have to work what we have. We're like, okay, this could make it better for the audience and make it better as a producer. You also have to think about how to sell the film. This could also make it better to sell the film, market it as well.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, since we talked about it a little bit, we haven't gone into it. You have this same issue when you're in indie and you have a horror where the special effects and the budget for the special effects live in kind of two worlds in your head.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's fantastic when, and I'm going to do another spoiler, but when the father and husband is like, his body is being transmorphed and he's got these huge cuts along his chest, and so that's amazing sort of special
Right.
effects. Did you kind of pick moments that you knew you needed to put the focus and the budget into, like that one, or did you have the special effects designer kind of decide on it? How did you work the special effects in the way that you did?
Jordan had free reign and he knew what the budget we were working with, and he would work with that, stick within the confines of that budget. And then he's a guy that's very passionate about film production. He's also directed his own feature films, and he's a passionate about the horror, like the horror genre. Period. I mean, like what's the store called? Halloween.
Oh, Spirit of Halloween.
Spirit Halloween. He runs a Spirit Halloween during that season.
Okay.
And so he loves the genre. Like he's got like he makes his laser printing of the legs and all that stuff. He does all that stuff. Like so he had like stuff in his basement that he brought on set to use that he had used for other films. So when he said like, hey, listen, this is what I want to do with this, we can make, because there's like, for example, like I was outside my mind when I wrote the script, right? There's like, for example, like the opening scene, original opening scene of Bad Voodoo, which when it was called Voodoo, was Abigail's riding a horse. So
Of course, we can afford that. Chuck a horse in
yeah,
there.
yeah. So he was riding a horse. So yeah, there was that. And then there was the distribution contract was like, you can't have a horse. We can't do that. Like that's too pricey. And talk about the money for stunts and all that stuff. Is like, no, we're not doing that. You don't want to do that. So no, we got back to Jordan. Yeah, he just basically outlined, hey, this how we can make this how it's written, but this how we can make it work. And that's what we're able to do. Because like for the transformation, by example, originally the way it in voodoo lore, we were supposed to have like a goat on his a doll-like goat on his chest, as if it's pressing down to make the transformation happen. But we were like, it was gonna look too fake and too silly to have like a doll goat. So Jordan's like, hey, let's research and see other elements of transformation. And then he did that, and then that's how he came up with that concept. Yeah. By example, like when they were doing the circle in the room where there's the girls, they're trying to bring them back and all that. In the original, we do a whole, because if you look at voodoo, there's most voodoo like not get-togethers, but seances. There's always the dancing. They always cut the chicken and pour blood on it all over each other and all that stuff. We wanted to do that, but Jordan's like, it's gonna get messy. It's gonna be a production nightmare, and then we'd have to deal with the elements of people saying like, the PETA asking us, "Is this a real chicken?" and all that stuff. He's like, you get more money for the next film. You can deal with that in the headache. But for now, let's just keep it simple and stupid. So that's why like having Jordan on set as a person passionate about the film, but also cares about us.
Yeah.
Making sure that certain things don't hurt our film was a big key to have on set.
What was the biggest compromise you had on budget? Was it the horse? Was it having to get rid of the first scene, or was it the not wanting to deal with PETA and having the chicken thing? obviously with an independent movie, I hear about it, from my sister and then from like different people we interview. I feel like it's almost a full time job compromising or trying to make the budget work within the constraints. But was there one big thing that like you really wish you would have kept in or figured
I
out a
think
way to make work?
the car scene was the biggest thing because the way the car scene's written, budget, it wasn't budgetarily wasn't going to work, and the way we had to shoot it basically, old school. We had to basically rock the car, make the car moving, shoot everything inside the car, make it look like they're actually driving. That was one aspect that I think like because the way it's written, it's supposed to be the audience doesn't know what's coming, so it was punch you in the face. Like the car crash happens with the kids in the car, you're like, oh shit, So not having that, because every time we do a test screenings, people watch it, it never had the same reaction that we wanted it to. Clearly, because the way it was shot, we shot that better. I think the audience would basically have a not vested interest, but a little bit more like, oh, I'm in for a bumpy ride,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
what we want. We want to tell people like buckle up. So that's one instance where one biggest thing I think we really wish we were able to shoot. Yeah.
On that same vein, do you have any advice for somebody who's going into their first movie that you kind of learned on this that would be helpful, or alternatively, a story that they might find helps them take away something from their first big feature? Because obviously, shorts are so different from features.
I would say the one of the key parts I'll say is there's several things. The first thing I would say is that plan wisely, budget wise. If you don't need something, just get rid of it. You know, like you like I said, you got a whole person riding a horse. You don't need a horse. Get rid of the horse. Anything that costly would be a detriment to your production, because at the end of the day, as a filmmaker, the most important thing to us is that we want the film to be out there. And I'm not saying sacrifice your artistic integrity. No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying, like, just think about in the scope of things, what is the best way to convey this story that's not going to hurt budgetarily to make it impossible for us to put this film out there. There's nothing worse than your films, because I got filmmakers that were making our film, the same time we were making Bad Voodoo, and their film is still sitting on the shelf, and they're still raising funds on Indiegogo.
Mm.
I'm trying to wrap up because post production, you got to make sure you plan out for post production costs. Lock in your editor ASAP. Kelly, our editor, her first time editing a feature, and because she works for a trailer house, and it's her first time. Get your editor locked in. Get your sound design person locked in as well. So that way, but you can have those budgets outlined. So that way, like, okay, this is locked in, this is locked in, and there's no surprises at the end. So when you wrap up shooting, you don't have no surprises about like, oh crap, now the sound designer, now the editor. And also, if you can have some money put away for marketing, because when you get picked up by a distributor, in our indie scale, distribution not going to do a lot of the marketing. You got to fit the bill for a lot of it. Most of the time, what they'll do is that they put it on social media and they'll tell you and they'll put it out there because they got 20 other films. And if your film doesn't have a big name like even the Nicolas Cage of the world, they're not gonna push it out there. They're gonna focus their money on the top level versus yours. Not to say they don't like your film. It's just that they got a better bang for their buck invested on Cage than your film with some no names. So just plan accordingly and just have all these elements locked in ahead of time. So that way when you wrap production, editor, money's there, we paid her, she's editing. And one thing also as well, I would say to filmmakers, do not get wrapped up in the stupid trap of having to get people that are seasoned to work with, because our wardrobe designer is her first feature. Our production management crew, some of them is their first production they ever worked on. Our AD, this was her third feature. So there's like people that worked on this production. This was their first baby, and even the actor that played Mambo, Angie, it was her first feature. So what you want to do, get people that love film, that love the aspect, the beauty of filmmaking, and you have a wonderful set versus having somebody that comes on set who's excuse my language, just a douche.
Yeah.
You know, like I've done films with Scorsese and like, but why are you here with us? Like,
Right, right.
so, so just I think definitely don't be married to having a seasoned person. Just be married to having people that have passion for film, love the art of filmmaking, and you'll have a wonderful set. It'll be easy because everybody on set, we just had a great time. That's one thing after production. We never had any issues as far as, you know, people with egos. Everybody just had a good time and understood the assignment.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right. Are you looking forward to making another feature? Or are you taking a little bit of a break?
We are working on making another feature. I'm getting married in 3 weeks.
Oh my
So
gosh,
congratulations.
congratulations.
Yeah.
thank you. So yeah, that took a front seat. So
Yeah.
yeah.
As it
So
should. As it should.
right. So yeah, it's been a busy, crazy year. Like our film came out in February. My sister's having her first. So my first time being an uncle.
Oh.
I'm getting married in a few weeks. So it's just been like ambush. And then my daughter's graduation's on June. So it's just like the first 6 months is like my schedule's been planned out for me. First 6 months. This is your schedule for the first 6 months. Busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but what was I gonna say? Yeah, for next film, our next film we're jumping into is gonna be the vampire genre.
Okay.
Yeah. We wanted to do a Bad Voodoo sequel, but we wanted to give it time, let the film be out there in the world for a bit, and then jump into the vampire sequel. I mean, the vampire film, not sequel, vampire film, and then touch base as far as getting back to Bad Voodoo. I have an idea for Bad Voodoo for a sequel that's kind of like more so the Bad Voodoo world, but not the direct sequel that I've been working on. It's just I'm just not getting the story, so it's one of those things I'm just
Okay.
gonna put on the shelf, and then we've been focused on doing the vampire sequel, the vampire film. Actually, I'm sending over to Jeffrey Howard to see if to have him look it over to get his notes on the film. He did several films. One of my favorite that he did was Ouija board, the Ouija, not Ouija,
Ouija.
what was it? Ouija's the sequel, right? Yeah, yeah. So I don't know why I love that sequel, but to me it was like it's very rare to find a sequel better than the first film because the first one was horrendous. But when he came on board, then he did several other films that you did in the horror genre as well. But I'm just it's gonna be costly, but I'm sending over to him to get some notes so to make the film better. But it's taking the vampire genre and just flipping it on its head. Just give me something new to the
Okay.
genre. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
But it's a project we've had on the shelf since 2022. We wanted to work on this, so we're excited to work on it finally. Yeah.
Very cool.
That sounds great. So obviously people who want to watch Bad Voodoo can do so on Prime because that's the easiest way to get to it. But how will they be able to follow you and to see what's happening with this vampire film?
They can check me out on IMDb. You can also follow me on Instagram, Andre J Hepburn or Poetic Lesson. Is my Instagram handle. Just follow me on there. I post stuff regarding our production, and also check our Instagram and check Poetic Lesson. Check my Instagram, Poetic Lesson. We have a production Redemption Motion Pictures production page on Facebook, but it's one of those things as an indie filmmaker we rarely use it as we should. We keep getting told we should use it, so after this I should start using it. So, but after the wedding, because my future wife would kill me. She said no film stuff prior to the wedding. So she gave me all February, all the way up until May. She said, when May hits, no film
You're
stuff.
done.
So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm done.
That's fair.
So, yeah.
That's fair.
Right, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and we're very lucky you squeezed us in at the beginning.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I'm excited.
Our apologies.
No apologies. I'm excited. But my question for you guys: what scene did you would you say really did it for you in Bad Voodoo?
Ooh, okay. So the one that pops immediately to mind is that transformation scene. And I know I talked about it before, but it's
Mm.
so strongly visual and it's very foolish of me, perhaps, but we think of magic as kind of very easy existing thing. So the idea that he was going to sort of transform, maybe it's a little painful, but you sort of expect him to just like, not even as difficult as cosmetic surgery. It'll just boof, be this fantastic other
Right.
person. And then it's this really torturous experience. And then, of course, afterwards, he's like covered in it's not at all what you expect. And it did genuinely kind of take me by surprise. And now that I've said that, I also really loved, and so I'm having two, and I apologize. I really, really liked the scene as well, where at the end she's kind of confronted with him and he's all bandaged, which is what made me think of it. And he's like, you have to take your responsibility for this too. And that's when everything kind of twists on its head. Is
Right.
really a cool moment, that as well. So sorry, mine ended up being two, but they were very tightly related in the film.
Yes, yeah. The
Right. Yeah.
transformation scene was amazing, but I got to be honest. My favorite scene in the whole movie was the voodoo doctor, the guy when he comes in and just his kind of I would it be a monologue? I mean, he's talking about how they broke
Packed.
their pact with him, and just the way he did it. I maybe it's because my daughter was prime age of Princess and the Frog and Tiana, and like having so, but and then to see it in real life and not the Disney like the Disney side of it, where like
Right.
it's still kind of nice. I was really taken by that. Like that's Candyman creepy. Like it was just like
Right.
he was perfect for that role. So like the
Right.
transformation scene, she knocked that out. But him coming out and doing the walk and then the voice changing and doing the spells or you know talking about the pact and stuff like that, really found that like creepy and which I love when I watch a horror movie. I want to find something that kind of makes the hair on the back here. I don't have much hair, but I do get some that stand up on the back of my neck, and that's when that happened there.
Yeah. Also, the costume that he wore, his mom made it.
No
Oh,
way.
really?
Yeah. Yeah. Our production team, our wardrobe designer, had a whole Lisa Coleman had a whole thing designed for him, and his mom said him and his mom worked together, and she knitted, sewed, and put everything together. The hat, everything.
Oh,
He
wow.
came on set with it, and I was like, oh wow, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
great look. No, it was great. He was good. Like I could see him. He was like I guess not. I want to say villain because it's like I mean it's I don't know
Right.
enough about it, but like yeah, he was just great. I like
Right.
that role.
Awesome.
I hope
Thank
he
you guys.
comes back
Appreciate it.
in Bad Voodoo too. He was really
Oh,
cool.
oh, most
Yep.
definitely. I mean, I've we played around with discussing making a voodoo origin for Ugon, kind of like, that kind of tale, give the audience a little you know, insight onto the whole aspect. We've discussed that. There's several things we discussed, but it's one of those things where like, we can discuss it, but we want it's one of those things we don't want to rush it. Nothing worse
Yeah.
than trying to rush something and then you're just like, we should just give it more time, you know.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
that's
100%.
Now that you've opened this question, though, I'm really curious. What's your favorite
Yeah.
scene in the film?
Oh, my favorite scene in the film, there's several, but for some reason, I don't know what it is. For some reason, I really, really love because Mandy's portrayal of Doc is not the way I envisioned it. So his way of portraying Doc is completely different than what I envisioned. So when Doc and them are in the basement, Doc's confronted now. Now you know all these crazy things. Smooth has been like is in the closet screaming his life away. All these things are happening. And then they ask Nonzo, say like just beg for forgiveness. Don's like, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And then they look at Doc, say like, Doc, what do you say? He's like, fuck your kids. Like the way Manny says it
Yep.
is it lands perfectly the way it's written. And that basically to me is one of those scenes where I always go back to when I talk about, actors portrayal as far as landing and saying the line the way you envision it. And I always go back to that scene because when we did the screening for it, everybody in the audience was just gasped. They're like, what? Right? What? So audience's reaction, was very played strongly to me, seeing that, this definitely worked. But I would say another scene I really, really loved is same thing with you guys. I really do enjoy like when Abigail's confronted. And then her whole world comes to basically, from Lucinda Mambo being there, basically it's her saying, "Hey, this is your idea. You signed up for this. You said everyone is responsible." So though that element as well was one of the key parts I really like. But third, I got third one, of course, is at the end when watching the screening of the film from several people, seeing their reaction when they see like with the blue dress, they're like something's off about Abigail. They can't put their finger on it, but like was she dreaming the whole time? What is going on? I'm confused. And then when they see what's going on, their reaction is like, oh shit, So yeah, so those three elements really, really what stick out to me because again, audience's reactions to those three parts were always like very, very always been the same way every time they see it. So yeah.
Very cool. Yep.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that should certainly send our listeners going looking for Bad Voodoo. I think we
Yes.
caught a lot of good moments there.
Yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Andre.
Thank you for
your
having
time
me.
today.
Appreciate you.
We've really enjoyed
Definitely.
it. Thanks so much.
Awesome.
And of course,
All right.
thank you to our listeners. This has been the London Horror Movie Club. If you want to share your thoughts about this episode, please head to our Facebook or YouTube pages. We're grateful to Kukurbit, who made our music. Thank you for listening, and please join us next time for the London Horror Movie Club.